It's time to talk LSU baseball with Mike Scarborough and Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball. This is Batter Up.
All right, Mike Scarborough here with Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball. Another huge week. Looking at the schedule, huge week in the SEC. And, of course, LSU is one of the 2 or 3 upper echelon pivotal matchups. LSU heading to Auburn, second series in a row on the road after sweeping Oklahoma. We both thought that last week that LSU would win 2 out of 3. They ended up sweeping. And, Kendall, I think LSU fans I don't know that Jay would say it, but I think LSU fans kind of are wishing particularly with the Tiger pitching staff is pitching that they wouldn't mind having that Texas series as a do-over. But they're liking where they're at right now, and they really are hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I think the biggest thing, when I kind of go back to that Texas series that we talked about at length, was just getting better across the board pitching. And, over the weekend, obviously, Cowan and Casey Evans threw really well. But, I mean, I think when you look at, Anthony Ianson, who I thought against Texas was a little bit up and down. He threw really well over the weekend against Oklahoma. Then Chase Shores. I mean, Chase Shores, we've talked about it a bit, but, I mean, he's just one of those guys that the talent is limitless. Really the sky's the limit for him. And, he finally kind of showed that type of ability over the weekend against Oklahoma. And so, yeah, I mean, to go on the road and give up the amount of runs that they did, even against, even in colder temps and even against a team who, they may not be Auburn offensively, but they like we talked about, they can manufacture, they can be versatile offensively. And so to hold them to that few of runs was incredibly impressive. And frankly, it's dangerous for opposing teams who have to face LSU soon, because if they pitch anywhere near like that moving forward, they're going to win a lot of baseball games, even more than they already are.
Sam Dunton, of course, former LSU Tiger. And what's different now that he's the Friday night guy for Auburn?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? I mean, when you look at the transfer portal last year, and after Auburn got Cade Fisher, you would have thought Cade Fisher was going to be the guy that would be kind of the bell cow of that pitching staff. That hasn't happened. It's kind of been Sam Dunton. So I think the biggest thing for him is it seems like his velocity is certainly up. It seems like his command of the zone is just a lot better. I mean, you look at his numbers overall: 51 strikeouts, 10 walks, and 44 innings of work. Teams hitting him at a 258 clip. And so, I mean, obviously he's been ultra consistent and, is pounding the zone. So, when you've got pretty good stuff and you're staying around the zone in college baseball, that's typically a recipe for success.
Well, what does LSU need to do to win 2 out of 3 this weekend in Auburn? And what are the keys in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of low-hanging fruit, but I kind of just go back to the pitching staff. I mean, the thing about Auburn and that ballpark, I mean, they tend to, they can really get rolling. I mean, right now they're sitting at 46 home runs as a team. Cooper McMurray is a big presence in the batter's box. I mean, 8 home runs so far this year, OPS over 1,000. Ike Irish is incredibly dangerous. To me, one of the more seasoned hitters in not only the SEC but college baseball. He has 7 home runs and he has an OPS over 1,000. And then, if you look at we talked so much about Derek Curiel as a freshman, but if you go look at Chase Fralick and Chris Rembert, 2 freshmen for them, they've been ultra impactful. I mean, Fralick, only has 3 home runs, but 8 doubles and hitting 345. And then you look at Rembert sitting there with 4 home runs and 7 doubles and, OPS nearing 1,000. So I just think, they're one of those teams that, they've got depth in the lineup and they've got, pieces both young and old that can really hurt you from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah. Looking around the league, I mean, Kendall, this weekend, I mean, look, it's every weekend. We sound like a broken record when we do these, but I mean, Arkansas at Georgia, and Kenny wanted me to ask you why Arkansas #1 and not Texas.
Yeah.
And what was that debate like? Texas at Kentucky, that one's interesting. Kentucky's kind of in that middle of the pack team in the league right now, and you wonder where they're going to end up at the end of the year. They're always, well coached, and that's Jay Johnson's best friend up there, one of his best friends in coaching. And
well, speaking of, they apparently gotten a little dust up over the weekend or on Tuesday against Louisville. So yeah, I feel like it's like every time they play, there's a dust up with the Kentucky coaching staff. I don't know what the hell's going on there.
yeah, okay.
I think what's going on there, but yeah, I'll let other people figure that one out.
Yeah, Tennessee at Ole Miss, and that was Kenny's other question for you. He wanted to know, could you have imagined A&M hitters hitting that many home runs off Tennessee last weekend?
Well, yeah, let's start with the first question, Arkansas. Yeah, I think the debate between Texas and Arkansas was interesting. I actually was leaning Texas on this one. The rest of our staff kind of leaned Arkansas, and at the end of the day, I think they convinced me. I mean, I think we look at Arkansas overall. I really like their pitching staff. They've been really offensive. I think they're hitting like 350 as a team right now. They've been awesome offensively. And, the thing about them is like Texas has those series wins at home against LSU and Georgia. But, I mean, Arkansas did go on the road and sweep top 15 or top 16 Vanderbilt. They did go on the road and take 2 or 3 from Ole Miss and kind of whipped up on them in 2 of those wins. So, it's not like their resume's chopped liver. So I really like what Arkansas has done, and I've really liked what Texas has done. I also think I agree with you in the sense that Kentucky's dangerous because it's a unique style. Like they're going to lean into pitches left and right, and you really have to have very good command against a team like that. And then A&M, had you told me after they got run ruled and no hit that they were going to come out and do that, I mean, I would have thought you were on some crazy pills. I mean, I honestly at that point kind of was like, well, that's pretty much their season. Like there's no coming back from that. But to go out there and what was it, 26 runs in 2 games against Tennessee, you could tell like Tennessee was shell shocked. And granted they played St. Houston on Tuesday, who's not very good this year, but they put up 14 more runs. So you get a sense at least their offense is starting to kind of get things together. I will say this, some people on Twitter were like, well, South Carolina, but I look at how they play this weekend against South Carolina as a really good measuring stick because before the last weekend, that was a team that, I mean, honestly wasn't playing well against anybody, much less like South Carolina. So if they go out there and kind of wear out South Carolina, I'll have a feeling that like, okay, they may have turned the corner, but we'll kind of find out. It would be nice. I mean, selfishly, it'd be really nice to have the LSU A&M series an hour away from my house actually mean something. Whereas about a week ago, it didn't mean anything, at least for A&M, just because at that point they had been out of it. But yeah, we'll see on that one. And then Ole Miss, I think you asked about Ole Miss as well. It's been really interesting to watch their resurgence. I think if you look at those guys offensively, Luke Hill, Baton Rouge native, has had a really nice year for them. I think, pitching wise, getting Hunter Elliott has really helped them. I do have concerns about the bullpen. I think if you go back and look at some of their games, look at some of their box scores out of the bullpen, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's getting the job done. So really interesting club to say the least. And we'll kind of see if that continues this weekend against Tennessee, which Tennessee is going to be pissed off. I kind of like the Vols in that one, even on the road.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's hear from Kenny Haines.
Kenny Haines is a proud 1989 graduate of LSU Law School with a passion for justice. Kenny stands out as the only lawyer in the state, board certified in both appellate practice and family law. Drawing from 34 years of trial experience, Kenny has navigated the most complex aspects of real people's lives. If you need help in Northwest Louisiana with a family issue, legal issue, or a highly skilled trial attorney, call Kenny 318-222-2100.
There you go. And of course, Kenny is the unofficial attorney of TigerBait.com. And of course, he sponsors this show each and every week. And Kendall, you look around, you look at this LSU baseball team, and oftentimes you're wondering when a team's putting it all together, you wonder if what their peak is. When will they reach it? Have they hit it at the wrong time, et cetera, et cetera. Had a little bit of a tough game at Nichols the other night, but this LSU baseball team really just seems to be hitting a stride. And but man, there's so much good baseball in this SEC. I mean, when you look at your upper echelon teams and say top 5 or 6, what are the differences between those those teams and the teams that are say ranked 10 to 20 nationally in your poll? mean, what is the true separation point? And are those teams, depending on who gets to host the home weekend?
Yeah.
I mean, is that really what it boils down to? And at the end of at the end of the year, is it really just a matter of, who held home and who snuck in and won a couple of series on the road?
Yeah, I really think right now, I think the biggest difference between those top teams and the teams in maybe in that 10 to 20 range is the level of consistency across the board. I think you could argue, I mean, we just talked about a little bit ago about LSU's pitching in the past has been a little inconsistent in the bullpen. But for the most part, everything else has been pretty consistent. And I think when you look at those teams up there, there's a lot of consistency. When you look at the teams in the if you look at the teams in like right now in like the 11 to 20 range or 11 to 25 range, it's like teams, they've gone up to 12 and then all of a sudden they get swept and they're back down to 22. Like there's just a lot of jockeying for position. Whereas, the teams that have been in the top 10 are the same teams that have been there for 4 or 5 weeks now. So that's the main thing. And I just think, overall, just kind of looking at LSU, I mean, what's really interesting is we get through conference here with these guys is, you look at like Jared Jones in conference play so far, hitting 296 with 1 home run, that's going to change. You look at, Chris Stanfield leading his team in hitting, at least from a batting average standpoint, in conference play. Derek Carriel hitting 340. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things about this team, but what I really and truly believe about LSU is that their best days are well ahead. I mean, there's not even a chance they're playing as good as they can possibly play. That's a really good sign for the postseason. The bad news about the postseason is I do feel like we're in a position in college baseball to where there are a lot of really solid teams, and there's not – I don't feel like there's a team right now that you look at and go, man, they are by far and wide the national championship favorite. I feel like you've got like 12 teams that it's like, okay, I could see a scenario where they win the whole thing. And when you have that, that just means that we're probably going to have a pretty crazy postseason.
Yeah. Big picture. And I asked this question. I was at Jay's presser yesterday, and I was kind of wondering, the whole deal of having to be at 34 scholarships by next December. And I asked Jay because I was texting some media guys. I'm like, has he ever really addressed this? Has he talked about it? And I asked the question, and it ended up being a very good one because he went off on it a bit.
Yeah,
and, he didn't go off on it as in like this is ridiculous. Jay's more of a guy that if there's a rule change, he just accepts it and moves on. He's not a go to SEC meetings guy and stand on the table and talk about this is ridiculous, but he just adjusts and works within it. But what are some of the other coaches saying about this, and what is that going to mean? I mean, to me, that is a big difference. And there was something that Jay brought up was trying to find dual role players, and if you can find them, if you can get 1 or 2 of those every couple of years, that could really make up those kids could be a premium.
Yeah, what's really interesting about the whole roster scholarship thing is it seems like the SEC and some of these other leagues really want to tap or really want to kind of reset everything like immediately. So, for instance, like I think the SEC, ACC, and leagues like that, they would love to see everybody go from 40 to 34 like next fall. But if you look at Claudia Wilkin, the judge who's deciding all this, which by the way I don't know why in the hell there's one judge in Oakland, California deciding the future of college athletics. It just seems absolutely ridiculous to me. But, she kind of came out the other day saying she wants a gradual transition to 30, for baseball, 34 scholarships. She wants a gradual transition to the roster changes in basketball, football, et cetera. And a lot of leagues are against that. So I'll be very curious to see where that lands with this settlement.
And what would you like?
I think you need a clean break. I think
rip the Band-Aid.
Yeah, because here's the problem. We run into the same situation. If you grandfather and kind of gradually do it, you have the same damn situation that we did with COVID, to where there's like 25-year-old kids still playing college baseball. They're asking for another year. They're 25 years old. Like, these people need to move on. So I'm for kind of ripping the Band-Aid off. And the other thing that's going to be really interesting is it's important to know that whenever teams do go from 40 to 34, whenever they, whether it's LSU or the SEC announces they're going to be at 24, 25 scholarships out of the 34, you're really going to be at 34, especially at a program like LSU when you have the in-state scholarships and academic money and stuff like that to be able to stack it. Most of these schools in the SEC are going to be at 34 full scholarships, even if they're officially at 25.
Well, but here's the thing about that whole tops argument doesn't really fly anymore. When you look at LSU's roster and you look at the number of Louisiana kids that are actually on it, it's not like it used to be. He's
no, for sure.
He's going out west. I mean, I'd like to see what the average has been for Louisiana kids since he's got here. I ought to know that off the top of my head, but it's not like it was under Paul.
Oh, not at all. I mean, Paul, and it's almost like he built it off of Louisiana kids and then went from there. Whereas I kind of feel like Jay, it's kind of like it's kind of like approaching a hitter with your curveball instead of your fastball when you throw 97.
Well, he's got some really unique kids, man. I tell you, I really enjoy when we get a chance to interview players. We were laughing yesterday because Cason Evans, the pitcher, is a Tony Vitello lookalike, and there's a lot of memes on the internet.
Yeah.
And I asked him if when Tennessee comes to town a couple of weeks, if he was going to see if he can get a selfie with Coach Vitello, and he goes, no.
That's hilarious. I did see. I'm looking at an actual mugshot now. That is funny. He does look very similar.
Oh man, when he turns sideways. In fact, I should wear glasses. My eyes aren't that good, but when I turn because Michael Cobble's the one that asked him the question or asked Jay that, and it was right after, Jay talks, and then you'll have a couple of players behind us in the room, waiting to be interviewed after Jay's done. And so I looked to see who came in the door, and it's him, and I had to do a double take because I thought it was Vitello.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, because I had my glasses on. I didn't see the wrinkles, but
I don't think there'll be many selfies with any Tennessee players or coaches happening in a couple of weeks, buddy.
And is that the way it is everywhere, Kendall? I mean, is everybody hate Tennessee? Is that the rule?
No, I don't think anybody hates it. It's just kind of like it's kind of. I wouldn't say it's the bad boys coming to town. I feel like Kentucky's probably more like that, but it's like new blood versus old blood, right? And so it's going to be a little tense.
And see, why is Kentucky that way? Because I every time he comes here, LSU fans love the coach. His interviews. That's why I'm always asking about it. Now he pissed some fans off a couple of years before the regional, but I don't know. I've always kind of been impressed by the guy. But isn't that kind of a deal that you almost have to have personality coaches like that in programs where
no doubt
I always say it's kind of like Arkansas football. Who breaks through? It's a Houston Nutt and a Bobby Petrino. It's those type of personality guys. Who breaks through it? Who breaks through an LSU men's basketball? A Dale Brown and a Will Wade.
Yeah, somebody a little different. Somebody that's not willing to, or somebody that's more than willing to kind of rock the boat.
Exactly. When there's other sports on campus they're the big dog. So. All right, anything you want to add on the way out? Of course, everybody needs to go to D1 Baseball. I was checking it out early. Y'all are absolutely loaded. You got Aaron Fitt, Etheridge, Healy. Y'all do the waypoints all weekend long, and tell them all about it, Kendall.
Yeah, I mean, you can still use Omaha 30, get 30% off a sub. Plenty of LSU coverage, and I'll be in town in a couple of weeks for Tennessee and the Tigers, so looking forward to that one.
All right, Kendall, man. Have a good weekend. And
you got it, brother. Be good.
Work. Thanks, bud.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.